This is a rally. We want to get pumped up, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so there's going to be a whole lot of pumping up, but we need to kick it off the right way. And we need to start in prayer. I have asked Justice Tom Parker to come up here. He's going to open us up in prayer. Justice Tom Parker, I have known him for 20 years, and he's running for Chief Justice for the state of Alabama, and I'm real interested in that race. Justice Tom Parker, yes, would you please open us up in prayer?
Normally I would say stand for the reading of the word. Most of you are standing. And those who can stand, please join me. I'm going to start with Psalm 5. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. Not a word from their mouth can be trusted. Their heart is filled with malice. Their throat is an open grave. With their tongues they tell lies. Make them bear their guilt, O God. Let their iniquities be their downfall. Because of the abundance of their transgressions, cast them out, for they have rebelled against you. But let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you. Surely, Lord, you bless the righteous and surround him with your favor as with a shield. And let me continue by reading from Psalm 7. Arise, Lord, in your anger. Rise up against the rage of my enemies. And wait, my God, decree justice. Let the assembled people gather around you. Let you, while you sit enthroned over them on high. Let the Lord judge the people. Vindicate me, Lord, according to my righteousness, according to my integrity, O Most High. Bring to an end the violence of the wicked, and make the righteous secure. You, the righteous God, who probes minds and hearts. My shield is God Most High, who saves the upright in heart. Whoever is pregnant with evil conceives trouble and gives birth to disillusionment. Whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit that they have made. The trouble they cause recoils on them. Their violence comes down on their own heads. I will give thanks to the Lord because of his righteousness. I will sing the praises of the name of the Lord Most High. Join me in prayer, please. Your word is eternally true, O Lord. It guides us and encourages us even in the hours of darkness. We thank you that we are seeing the truth of your word played out before us. He who digs a pit shall fall into it. He who rolls a stone shall have it rolled back upon him. We thank you for your sustaining grace for Roy Moore. We thank you that you have been his protection. And we thank you that you are surrounding him with your favor as with a shield. Be in our midst tonight, O Lord, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Parker. Adam Parker is our coordinator for Houston County. He's done a great job all campaign long, and I've asked him to please say the Pledge of Allegiance. He also happens to be running for state rep around here. All right.
Thank you, Rich. If you're able, please stand. Luckily, my part's easy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Born and unborn. Amen.
Please remain standing because we've got the national anthem coming up. And I have Priscilla Ford who's going to come up. Priscilla Ford's in the 10th grade. Priscilla Ford is 15 years old. Priscilla Ford can sing real, real well. Please welcome Priscilla Ford.
Twilight
but you won't be able to see if a lot of y'all sit down. All right. So here's the thing. Judge Roy Moore, running for the U.S. Senate. That's what we're here for. Yeah? That's right. Okay, so I'm thinking it's rally. We're rallying for Judge Moore. We need some initial encouragement. Okay? And then we're going to follow that with song. But I have asked Dan Webster to come over here and to provide us with a little initial encouragement. Dan Webster, I bet I have known you 20 or 25 years. And I've had the pleasure of working with you before. And Dan Webster was in this great press conference the other day. He was talking about voter fraud and voter inconsistencies and things like that. I was real proud of you, Dan. And I just wanted you to come up here and tell us a little bit. He's a great guy. He's a retired major in the U.S. Army. And small businessman right here, or right over there in Houston County. So Dan Webster, initial encouragement.
Try to make this as brief as possible. Family, friends, and fellow Alabamians, I submit to you that we have a date with destiny. A long time ago, we were taught a scripture. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff shall comfort me. Now, we know the Lord is with Judge Moore. But my question to you tonight is, who among thee will be with Judge Roy Moore? Judge Moore has sacrificed many years in public service, standing up for us in what we believe in. Now, for that very sacrifice that we deem to be honorable, they are trying to do more than just take an election. They are trying to destroy this man. I said they're trying to give Judge Roy Moore a high-tech lynching. And folks, the only people that can stop that are the people of Alabama. It stopped being about a campaign a few weeks ago. You see, they're after this man's life. They're after his livelihood. They're after his legacy. And we are going to say no. Race is about our children and our grandchildren. It is about whether or not our children will be allowed to worship and how they will be allowed to worship. Folks, now, I gotta tell you, we aren't always together on everything, but on this one thing, we have got to be together. Roll Tide of War Eagle, we're gonna be one. For the Steaming Hornets and the Golden Tigers, do the right thing. All over the state, from the Magic City to the Capital City, from the Black Belt to the Wiregrass, we are going to show the nation what a unified people can do. Roy Stewart Moore has already been vetted. He was being vetted at West Point when others were getting high at Woodstock. Roy Moore was being vetted in Vietnam while others were at home burning flags. People in his own home up in Etowah County, the people of Gaston and Rainbow City, they have already vetted him. They vetted him to be the DA. They vetted him to be the circuit court judge. Folks, Roy Moore is already vetted. We vetted him. We vetted him. We vetted him at the state level, not once, but twice. to be our Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. We already know this man. There ain't no surprises. There ain't no secrets. With Judge Roy Moore, he is what he is. This man believes as we believe in one God that makes heaven and earth, a God who sits high and looks low, a God who has blessed this state. And honestly, folks, this ain't about Roy Moore. And with all due respect, it ain't about Roy's opponent. This is about good versus evil. It's about right versus wrong. Tomorrow we don't just want to win. We want everybody to turn out, and we're going to let those numbers show the rest of the nation that we worship God in the state of Alabama.
Jerry Gay family, oh, come on, man. Come on, huh? Hey, the good thing about Dan Webster, he's local. Y'all are so blessed. Way to go. All right, so, well, the Jerry Gay family's coming up. They're getting ready. Okay, if y'all would do one favor for me, okay? So, to say we have national press here, that's an understatement. We have Earth press. So, if you guys, y'all all turn around, everybody wave. All right, well, now turn back and let's watch let's listen to the Jerry Gay family. They are from Geneva County, and I'm proud to say that Geneva County voted the highest percentage in the runoff, 73%, Geneva County.
I'd like to thank the Lord for being so good to us. If it wasn't for Jesus Christ, we wouldn't be nowhere this morning or this afternoon. So I thank God for all He's done for us. I thank you for Judge Roy Moore. The Bible says in Psalms 94:16, who will rise up for us against the evildoers, or who will stand up for us against the workers of iniquity? I thank the Lord that Judge Roy Moore has shown us in the past that he will stand up for our beliefs, and he will stand up for Jesus Christ. And I believe that Roy Moore will stand up for us in the future.
I also want to thank God for being so good to us. He's blessed us beyond measure. The Bible says, for the Lord is good, His mercy is everlasting, and His truth endureth to all generations. Jeremiah the prophet said, it is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because His compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is Thy faithfulness. He's been good to us. He's blessed our country beyond measure. But our country started to turn away from God. David said, help, Lord, for the godly man ceases. And that's why we're here to support Judge Roy Moore today, because he has stood for God when everybody else would back down. He stood for the sanctity of marriage. He stood for the Alabama values. Thank God for Judge Roy Moore. Thank God for our country. We're going to see America the beautiful. Thank God for our country.
Oh
They did a fantastic job. Okay, so it's a rally. It's a rally. Joy Lord. Okay, let's see. Judge McCathan. I'm looking for Judge Ashley McCathan. Okay, here's the thing. I've known him for a long time. I could call him Ashley a long time ago, but now I call him Judge. He is a retired circuit judge. He's the former presiding circuit judge from over in Covington County, and he's also been our coordinator for the 2nd Congressional District in the Judge Roy Moore campaign. Please give us some words of encouragement, Judge McCathan.
I'm told to make it quick. Looking back over time, I realized what a pressure cooker Judge Moore and his family have lived in for so long. He put the 10 Commandments on his courtroom wall and later in the Supreme Court building, and was under constant attack from the left as they tried to take away his job and his living, and they did. He stood for the sanctity of marriage and again was attacked. Again they tried to take his job, and they did. Then he runs for the U.S. Senate to stand up for our values, and they attack him as few have ever been attacked. Amen. The man and his family live under grinding pressure every day. It is a pressure cooker. Very few of us could do it, so I thank you, Judge Moore. Thank you. And you know what? Every once in a while, the bad guys look at that pressure cooker and they say, is Roy Moore done yet? And the answer comes back strong and clear. No, he ain't done yet. No, he ain't done yet. Amen. Judge Moore ain't done yet. The leftist media wants to tell you how to vote tomorrow. Never, 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 never let the media tell you how to vote. Everything you hold dear, including your way of life and your precious Christian faith. Go vote for Roy Moore tomorrow and take somebody with you when you go. Vote for freedom. Vote for the liberty of our people. Vote for a great man. Vote for Judge Roy Moore. This is the last thing I have to say. To all the outside political campaign committees, organizations, and individuals that have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars against Judge Moore, when he whips your tail tomorrow, on behalf of South Alabama, y'all come back sometime.
Back in 2003 on the steps when we were going through the Acknowledgement of God, Battle, 10 Commandments, there was one active judge on those steps, and it was Judge McCathan. He did a good job. All right. Now, I've got another good friend here. Mickey County is a circuit clerk in Coffee County. I've known him since 1976. Wow, we were young then. Mickey Counts, please come up here and bless us. Give us some encouragement. Mickey Counts!
I won't tell any stories on you if you don't tell any on me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to put the hay down where the goats can get it, okay? Listen, I have broke bread with Roy Moore. I have prayed with Judge Roy Moore. I have sat in his office and worked on programs for the judicial system. When he was Chief Justice twice, I was a circuit clerk in Coffee County that worked with him. And ladies and gentlemen, he'll do what he says he'll do. His yes is yes, his no is no. He's bold and courageous, and he'll stand up for the working folks of the state of Alabama. He'll stand up for the working folks of the United States of America. employees were wondering and came to me and said, Mickey, are we going to get a pay raise? I went to the judge and the judge said, yeah, it's going to happen. We're going to unfreeze it. And when you go back to your office and you look a single mother in the eyes and say, you're going to have money for your family because you're getting a raise, the chief has provided it, Judge Royham has provided it, and he did. He did. He don't have his own personal agenda. His agenda is support the people of the great state of Alabama and working with you and standing shoulder to shoulder with you. In 2005, when I switched parties because I could not stand no longer the immoral ways of the other party, he came to Enterprise, Alabama, and he stood by me. Even though I caught flack for what I did, he stood by me. And he's going to stand by you, and he's going to stand by the state of Alabama. He's going to stand by our beloved President Donald Trump and clean up Washington. When I got here tonight, I thought this is one of the fanciest barns I've ever been in my life. Because when I helped build barns, they were more like, well, barns. But I want to tell you a little something, and just remember this. Even as fancy as this barn is, there's pieces of wood that have knots in them, they're warped up and they're no good, and they're thrown out back. But then it comes the time to clean up behind the barn. And when you go out there and you pick up that old piece of wood, here goes the cockroaches and the disease-carrying varmints and the filthy pests running because light has exposed them for what they are. That's Washington. We've already got the start. Praise the Lord for Donald Trump. He's up there. He's got one end of the board. And now we need to send him some help. And that helps in Judge Roy Moore send him to Washington to grab the other end. Thank you and Merry Christmas.
County County. All right. Hey, Veronica and Paul and Cortland, if y'all can kind of make y'all's way down here. All right. So it's a rally. We're for Judge Roy Moore. This is Election Eve. You have chosen to come here and hang out with us on Election Eve, and I'm very, very proud of you. All right. Now, anybody here from Coffee County? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody here from Dale County? We are in beautiful Midland City right now in Dale County. All right. Anybody here from Houston County? Good. All right. I'm curious. Barber County? There's a contingency. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Veronica, push on through and come over here. Anybody here from Henry County? Yeah. How about Elmore County? All right. Very good. Hey, y'all. Next up, we've got Veronica Birkenstock. She's from Texas. She is a supporter. She's running for Congress in Texas. And she called me the other day. Actually, she called me, I guess, Saturday night late. And she said, is there anything I can do? And I said, could you come to a rally on Monday night? She said, yeah. Thank you. She gets things done. Veronica Birkenstock.
Yes, it's a rally, right? Okay. I'm from the South. Can you figure that out? You gave me 1 minute. I've always got more to say than 1 minute. So the most important thing tonight is to thank you for coming and thank you for supporting Judge Moore. I have supported him for many, many months and have followed his race very closely. And we need more strong conservatives to go to D.C., to fight with our president and truly make America great again. And I don't say that with just words. I say it in deeds. We have so many people on that hill who say words, but their deeds do not match their words. Thank you, thank you. So would you repeat after me? And actually, I don't have to repeat that because I'm sure you understand every word I say, right? Make America great again! God bless you all!
Veronica Birkenstock, Texas. We're going to hear from her later. Good deal. All right, Paul Nealon, what do you say? from Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin. It's Paul Nealon. He ran against Paul Ryan. Okay? I'm telling you right now. Paul Ryan's not saying good stuff about it. Paul Nealon is. Paul Nealon, pump us up.
Thanks for having me here. So, people ask, why did I drive all the way down here to Wiregrass when I could be up in Wisconsin in the nice cold ice? The answer is because every Senate counts, doesn't it? Every single Senate counts. I see some of these red hats in the audience. We're all here to support President Trump. We're here to support the Constitution. This is a spiritual battle we are engaged in right now. There will be justice. Truth will prevail. We will win tomorrow. The good men and women of Alabama are going to send Judge Moore to Washington, D.C., and we are going to drain that swamp. We heard Psalm 5, and I want to remind you of Psalm 118. The Lord is with me, and I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He is my helper. I look in triumph at my enemies. God bless Judge Moore, and God bless his family, and God bless this staff of his that have seen fire and damnation rain down on them, and they did not give up. And you know what? They weren't afraid. They weren't a bit afraid. They walked right into that fire for you and for me. God bless you all. God bless Judge Moore. God bless America.
Thank you, Paul Nealon from Wisconsin. Very good. All right, I've got a guy here, and I've known him for a couple of weeks. He's running for the U.S. Senate in Missouri. His name is Cortland Sykes. He's a great presentation, okay? He's a former Navy man. He worked with the SEALs and intelligence analyst. He's a good man. He did a documentary on the fake news against Judge Moore. It was real good. I saw it. It was great. Cortland Sykes, pump us up.
Alabama! Come on, Alabama! Let me hear you in the swamp, Alabama! America has her eyes on you tonight and tomorrow night. They want to know if Alabama can be bought by Mitch McConnell. They want to know if Alabama can be fooled by the fake media. They want to know if you can be fooled by their disingenuous political puppets. No, Alabama selected their candidate, Roy Moore. They fought for Roy Moore alongside Steve Bannon. And tomorrow night, you will have your victory. You will. Alabama will have your victory. I want to thank Rich for having us here tonight. Just to say, from Missouri specifically, but for America, thank you. We need Roy Moore in the Senate. And we know you know that. And America has her eyes on you, and tomorrow night you will have your victory. So bravo Zulu, Alabama. Job well done.
From Indiana. He's from Muncie, Indiana. And he called, it was like 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, and well, I want to help, what can I do? I said, well, he says, I'm coming down, please plug me in. So we had him speak at rallies all over the place, and he is fantastic. He's a former social studies teacher for like 15 years. He also was Representative Mike Pence's communication director in the early 2000s. And I'm talking about Andrew Phipps. He is a highly sought after speaker. I'm proud he's here tonight. Come on up.
Isn't it a joy to be in the wonderful state of Alabama? A most beautiful state, and it's an honor to be here tonight. I think about the great quotation that Mark Twain once said. He said, in the beginning of a change, the patriot is often hated and scorned. But when his cause succeeds, however, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Aren't you glad that Roy Moore is a patriot? You know, 102 people, when they got in that tiny Mayflower that'd been at sea 65 days, they didn't come here because they wanted to bring their favorite copy of the Koran. They weren't interested in Sharia law. I've often thought that if the jihadists had the energy of the liberals, they'd end up with indoor plumbing. But Judge Moore has been a patriot. You know, Benjamin Rush said, he said that men will either be governed by the Bible or they shall be ruled by the bayonet. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president, said the Bible is the foundation upon which this republic rests. Harry Truman said our laws came from Mount Sinai, and if we ever forget it, we will become a totalitarian state with no rights except for the state. John Kennedy said our rights didn't come from the generosity of the state, they came from the hand of God. Dwight Eisenhower said we are a Christian nation and we should never forget it. In the case of the Church of the Holy Trinity, 1891, even the Supreme Court ruled that we are a Christian nation. We are a Christian nation because we've done more for the poor than any other country in the world. When there's been a tsunami, an earthquake, flood, or devastation, we're usually the first on the scene. Secondly, we've sent missionaries around the globe. And I want to say, thirdly, we've been a friend to Israel. And aren't you glad to see a president that has the audacity, the courage, the integrity, the moral turpitude to try and say we're going to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? I have to tell you that Mr. Trump has done more of what he said that he would do than any president in my lifetime. Reminded of the man that went to Washington, D.C. and give me my money. I'm here to tell you that my people in Indiana are so excited that we have a man that's looked the obstacles right in the face, you know, just like Judge Learned Hand said. He said liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it lies there, it needs no law, no constitution to keep it. But when it dies there, no law, no constitution can save it. Aren't you glad that you have a chance to be in on the victory celebration for Judge Roy Moore?
Give a shout out. Bill Harris is here. He is Vice Chair of the 1st and 2nd District, Congressional District here in Alabama. Bill Harris. Give it up for Bill Harris of the GOP. Good job, you. All right. And now, it's somebody I want to hear from. I like listening to her speak. She's been at several rallies already in the state of Alabama. She's done countless interviews on behalf of Judge Roy Moore. She is interested in draining the swamp. It's Janet Porter. She is the president and founder of Faith to Action. She is pro-life. She's a great Christian lady. She is a sister of mine. Janet Porter, come on up.
He said, well, you know, it's hard. when you're up to your armpits and alligators, to remember that you came here to drain the swamp. And so, you've got to wonder, why has all of the swamp creatures crawled into the state of Alabama? What is behind this? Let me tell you what's behind it. It's all of that, but the most important thing, and I'll tell you why it matters. That's why you haven't heard a rumor, you haven't heard any allegation of any wrongdoing, any impropriety in 40 years of public service. But the moment he stepped into the federal stage, right now, the winner of this race is winner take all. The winner of this race will decide. They will be the deciding vote on who sits on the Supreme Court for the next 30 or 40 years. And the bottom line is, Senator Roy Moore will confirm pro-life judges, and Abortion Jones will block them. I mean, what good are pro-life promises from our president if you can't confirm the judges that he nominates? That's why the swamp world has come to Alabama. That's why the people of Alabama need to rise up and say no. We will not be told how to vote. We will not be bullied. We will not be bought. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow here in the state. What's going to happen is we're going to send Senator Roy Moore to defend our Second Amendment rights. We're going to stand unlike his opponent. We're going to, you can't say he won't take them away. That means probably because he wants to take them, along with our religious freedoms. You heard that Economist interview. He's the guy that's going to secure our borders, and Senator Roy Moore is the guy that we know more than anything has to, after he lost everything, to stand for our religious liberty. That's Roy Moore. President Trump, not only does the governor of the state of Alabama, not only do members of Congress that are actually good, like the Honorable Mo Brooks, like the Honorable Louis Gohmert, who we'll hear from tonight, we have people like Dr. James Dobson, very, very well-known Christian conservative activist. We have Dr. Ben Carson. We have Governor Sarah Palin, Governor Mike Huckabee. We have 500 pro-life leaders and supporters who have signed on to a letter of support most recently, and more importantly, we have the people of Alabama who stand with Senator Roy Moore. But you can tell somebody not only by their friends, but by who their enemies are. And who stands against Judge Roy Moore? Well, we've got the far-left Democrats. We've got the Washington establishment. We've got the lynch mob media. We've got the abortion lobby. Wrongdoing, the single shred of evidence has been shown without equivocation to be an absolute fraud. And Mark the apologist a few moments ago, well, I'm not sure that's true. Let me explain it to you. When you say something, when you knowingly say something that isn't true, that's called a lie. And when you sign something and say someone else signed it, that's called forgery. And when you base your case on lies and forgery, that's called a fraud, and the people of Alabama will not be fooled. The people of Alabama, as we saw in the primary, will not be bought. The people of Alabama will not be bullied by any of the swamp creatures who soon will be leaving and crawling back to the swamp in Washington, and oh, won't that be a glorious day. What's going to happen tomorrow, I predict, is that the people of Alabama will rise up and be true to their motto. They will dare defend their rights. Their right to vote. How about that? That'd be nice. Their right to life, their right to liberty, their right to bear arms. They will dare defend their rights to secure borders, and they will dare defend their rights to choose who decides goes on the United States Supreme Court, and it's going to be Senator Roy Moore. And you know, when the people of God stand with the man of God who has stood for the Ten Commandments, who has stood for our liberties, who has stood for our freedoms, against activist judges, against even those who wear dark robes and claim they've got superpowers on the Supreme Court. No, no. Judge Roy Moore has stood. And you know what happens when the people of God stand with the man of God? Let me tell you what I think is going to happen tomorrow. The watching world is going to see that our God is bigger than the billionaires. Our God is more powerful than the politicians. And our God, make sure you get this on news, I want to speak it slowly. Our God is more mighty than the media, and we stand with the man of God. They will tomorrow send the vindicated Senator Roy Moore to Washington to drain the swamp and make America great again. And nothing says don't mess with Alabama more than a landslide for Senator Roy Moore.
Thank you, Jen. Order. Excellent. All right, and I know the sheriff will be making his way down in just a second. All right, hey, this just in, the polls open in 12 hours and 12 minutes. Hey! All right, okay, now you can look all around to see if we have any congressmen around here, okay? And you look around and you look around, there's one. There's one congressman in here, okay? And he's been with us from the beginning. It's Congressman Louis Gohmert from Texas. He's a former Chief Justice. He is a great, great guy. He's been there since 2004.
Wow, y'all look pretty. Let me get a picture of you. Oh, y'all just look great. Oh, that's great. Oh, it's great to be with you. I'm telling you what. Yeah, I spent 4 years at Fort Benning. Y'all heard of that? It's partly in Georgia, partly in Alabama. What a great place to be, right? Well, I tell you what. I was thinking, my years on the felony bench as a felony judge, I've been a prosecutor before, and as you heard, a Chief Justice, but I had a prosecutor in my court. He was asking the jury panel questions so he could figure out who he wanted to strike and keep on his jury, and he had a husband and wife on the same panel. And he said to the husband, he said, look, if you ended up on the jury with your wife, could you still vote your own conscience? And he said, sure I can. I'd ask my wife, what's my conscience? And I'd vote whatever it was, you know. Well, you make sure when you get ready to vote that you ask the right conscience. Because I'm telling you, this is so important to me. And people like me and Roy that have spent so much time dedicated to justice, not just us, like in the old Department of Just Us that just departed, but we're talking about justice. And I'm telling you, is there anybody in here who has ever looked someone to death? I would never have forced him to trial in 4 weeks. It's outrageous. And, you know, we're very careful in our evolved judicial system. You know, I think it's the best in the world, even with all its flaws. And there's very little hearsay evidence we ever allow before the jury. One exception is what's called outcry. If somebody alleges that a sexual crime was committed, then I would have a hearing to determine if this was legitimate outcry that would be brought before the jury. Because if you wait too long to tell people, then our judicial system says probably not true. That's why we allow it in. How long before outcry? And if you say, I'm just speaking hypothetically, well, I got my family here, they remember for sure that I told them immediately. Well, I would want to know in that hearing, then where are the people they told? Because if you tell more than one person, there's no way that anybody sits on it. And by the way, where was your outcry when you were before this guy as a judge? Because I'm here to outcry about anybody that would say, oh, well, yeah, okay, I guess I admit I forged this bottom part, but not the top part. Well, who forged the top part then? I'd like to know. Because Roy Moore never put DA beside his name. I mean, just be aware your sins will find you out. But it takes more than 4 weeks. Now, I'm going through, I've been through the Bible many times, and it hit me that I want all 3 of my girls, when I go to heaven, to each have a Bible. I started at page 1 and went through, and they got all my notes and underlining and whatnot. Well, last night, in this newer Bible, I got to the story about Ahab. And he wanted the vineyard that this guy named Naboth had. It was a lovely vineyard. And Naboth said, no, this I inherited it. I'm not giving this to you. I'm not selling it to you. It's not for sale. And he's all upset. And Jezebel, you've heard that name before, haven't you? Have you ever met somebody that seemed like a Jezebel? You know? Well, she says, not to worry, we got this covered. And so what does she do? She has some people bribed, tells them, just wait till Naboth is there at the feast, and then accuse him of these horrible crimes and offending God. This was a godly man. He'd never done anything wrong. And yet, the Bible calls them scoundrels. They got up and lied about Naboth, and they took him out and stoned him. And this is really important, people. You know, God gives us free choice. And we're living in the only little bubble in the history of mankind where Jews or Christians have been able to live and not suffered for their Christian or Jewish beliefs. Have you thought about that? We're supposed to suffer for Christ's sake. Whatever reason, we have this bubble, and we have almost lost it. It's almost gone. Because we're given the freedom to choose to either do right and stand for right. But let me just tell you, in all my years of listening to evidence, it drives me crazy to hear people say, well, it sounded like a very compelling story. They seem to be very polished. Well, yeah, that's what lawyers do. They sit their people down and they coach them for as long as it takes to get their story sounding good. But that's why, if somebody waits 38 years to bring an allegation that will destroy a person's life, shouldn't they have more than 4 weeks to defend themselves? They should, you betcha. And so well, I mean, who has a calendar from what you were doing 38 years ago? I was in the Army 38 years ago, and they lost everything in my file except my honorable discharge, you know. I mean, how can I prove that? So what you've got to do is look for the problems. So for example, hypothetically, if someone said, well, you know, I used to talk to Judge Moore on my phone in my room, and then you find out she didn't have a phone in her room, and the cord didn't reach, and they didn't have a cell phone back then. And you go, wow, she lied about that. And if somebody tells you, no, I remember so specifically, and they have a lot of really strong details, but they've been involved in a lot of drugs or alcohol since then, normally, just my experience, you would have them, if they were really honest, say, man, I've messed up my head so much from the drugs or alcohol. It's really hard to remember some of these things, but this is the best I remember. That's normally, you got to look for these things. And if somebody says they did something or went somewhere and it turns out they couldn't have been there, you know they're lying. If they say, this is what it purports to be, the signature in the yearbook of a judge, and even one part they knew was a forgery, what does that make that person? You got to weigh these things. I have sat and listened to, in fact, let me just real quick tell you, I had a doctor from my hometown of Tyler, Texas, and I couldn't wait to sign the warrant. He had molested his daughter. We didn't need a trial. A year later, we found he had been set up by his wife. Why? Because there was money involved in a divorce and there was power over the children. Anytime you see money and power involved, you got to look for who's benefiting. And you can't in 4 weeks get to the bottom of something. Did somebody receive money like those scoundrels that got Naboth put to death? It takes time to dig those things out. But I'm telling you this, we need to get to the bottom. And if somebody got money for trying to destroy a righteous man, there's a place called prison that is a good place. So, let me just tell you, if they are successful in taking down a righteous, good man like Roy Moore, then nobody is safe, no matter how clean, how righteous, how great you've been. You can be taken down by these plain people too. So let's stand firm. And I'm sick of people coming to Alabama, whether they're from the Washington Post or California or the media or all these others, saying, here's what you need to do. Well, I'm coming into Alabama and saying, you know Judge Moore. You know what he's been. You have seen him under fire. And unlike the justices that I watched the oral argument on whether or not we could have a 10 Commandment statue on our Capitol grounds in Texas and Kentucky could have 10 Commandments inside the doors. And I'm listening to these people, some of whom appear to be clowns in black robes, because they're arguing about whether you can have a tribute to the 10 Commandments. And I look up to the right as I'm looking at the judge right up there. There's Moses holding the 10 Commandments. It's time to stop the fraud. It's time to elect a righteous man. And they're scared to death in Washington that you will send Roy Moore to see them. Let's send Roy Moore. You do it, your votes. We're going to have a fun time in the old town when Senator Roy Moore gets there. God bless you.
Good job. All right. There is the sheriff. He is from Wisconsin, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. Sheriff from 2002 to 2017. His name is Sheriff David Clark. Come on up, Sheriff Clark. He's doing
Roll Tide. I'll let you settle that stuff between you and all. I got it. All right. Look. This is the best part of a campaign. I'm sure Judge Roy Moore and his family can tell you with everything they've been through, they're battle tested and they're ready to go to Washington, D.C. The reason why Election Eve is the best part of the campaign is because you don't have to hear any more about focus groups. You don't have to hear any more about polls involving likely voters, registered voters, to which I say the only voters I care about are actual voters, the ones who are going to go to the polls tomorrow and put Roy Moore over the top to become the U.S. Senator from the state of Alabama. Here's what it comes down to. Turnout. Turnout, turnout, turnout. And if you good people turn out the way you did for Donald Trump last November, Roy Moore will win this thing going away. Now, it's a little difficult coming to this great state, and I said this from the beginning when all the crap started about Roy Moore. People ask me about it when I say people in the media, and I said, you know what? Let the good people of Alabama sort it out. They'll figure it out, the smart people. And I believe that then, I believe it now. Because you folks have had all of America's eyes on you for the last couple of months. You've been skewered in the liberal media. You've been called names. You've been disparaged. I know you better than that. Because for the short period of time I've been in this state, you guys have taken me in. You've made me an adopted son of Alabama. Thank you. Now here's why this is important. You know this, but I'll say it anyway. This is about the survival of this republic. That's what this election, that's what every election is. We have momentum going right now, coming out of last November, but we have to keep it going. If you want to see Obamacare get its proper burial, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for Roy Moore. If you want tax reform to finally happen, and you want to see jobs created again, the way President Trump has created jobs, or at least provided the catalyst to do it since he took office, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for Roy Moore. If you want to see an end to illegal immigration, where illegal aliens trespass into our country and set up residency, putting a strain on local resources that you have to pay for, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for Roy Moore to be the next United States Senator from the state. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see a wall, not a fence, a wall built along our southern border, stop violent gangs, illegal drugs, and weapons from coming across our border, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for Roy Moore to be the next senator from the state of Alabama. And if you're like me and you're tired of our Constitution being trampled on and the rule of law ignored, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for Roy Moore to be the next United States Senator from the state of Alabama. Ladies and gentlemen, if if like me, you believe that blue lives matter in America. If you support law enforcement in your community, then you must show up tomorrow to vote for Roy Moore to be the next United States Senator from the state of Alabama. Order to return to your community, then you must turn out tomorrow and vote for who? To be the next United States Senator from the state of Alabama. And finally, if you support President Trump's vision of making America great again and putting America first, and you want to help President Trump drain the swamp, then you must turn out tomorrow to vote for the next United States Senator from the state of Alabama. Ladies and gentlemen, before I leave the stage, I have one question. Can I count on you? No, I mean really, can I count on you? Thank you so much. God bless you, Lord God. Continue to bless the United States of America. Let's get it done. Big, strong.
All right. He's the executive chairman of Breitbart News. He's the former chief White House strategist. He is Steve Bannon!
Thank you all. I love doing barn rallies in Alabama. Thank you for having us down here. Look, tomorrow, the question is called. It's an up or down vote tomorrow, right? Between the Trump miracle and the nullification project. Now we got the whole world here. You see, turn around, see them. See them all here? They're all back there. The entire opposition party. Right? Why are they all here? Why are they here from NHK and CCTV in China? The Financial Times of London? The Guardian? Come on, wave, Guardian. Come on, fellas. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Give me some mobility. So the question is called. This is greater than Judge Moore, right? It's even greater than the people of Alabama. I know one thing. Nobody can come down here and tell folks in Alabama what to do. The cussedness, the grit, the determination. You're the backbone of this nation. Nobody's going to come down here and tell you what to do. And I'm a Virginian. It's the last thing a Virginian do is tell somebody from Alabama what to do, right? By the way, morning, Joe. You called me a Yankee the other day. Just because I'm from Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. That's right, Joe. I got into some Yankee schools, Georgetown and Harvard. That I don't think you made the cut on, brother. Just because a Southerner goes to a Yankee school, Joe, doesn't make him a Yankee. Let's talk about this Trump miracle. Let's talk about what, and I was there on November 8th and November 9th, and trust me, in the sweet hour of prayer, in the wee hours of the 9th of November of 2016, it was the hand of divine providence that delivered. That they're going to mock and ridicule that tomorrow. That'll be a headline. Bannon said God wanted for Trump. Right? They're all in it for Putin, wanted for Trump. So sad, so sad. But here's what's happened. Look what's happened in the time. Look what's happened in the time since President Trump. It is a true miracle. Right? 2.2 million jobs. Oh, it comes in three things. It comes in three things. Our sovereignty, our economy, and our national security. Exactly what he promised on the campaign trail. When I got in the White House, I took all the furniture out. I took all the furniture out and just put a standing desk and a bunch of whiteboards. Number one, I didn't want to have a meeting longer than 5 minutes. And if you have a standing desk, no seats, no table, they're very short. All we did was put the campaign promises. Look what President Trump's delivered. On our sovereignty, what is it, 46 years, the lowest illegal alien crossings across the southern border? And he stopped mass illegal immigration. The number one beneficiary of that is the Hispanic and black working class. Because they don't have to compete with illegal alien labor. These folks don't understand. Ethno-nationalism's got nothing to do with it, folks. Economic nationalism does not care what your race is, your color, your ethnicity, your religion, your gender, your sexual preference. It doesn't care. It cares about one thing. You're a citizen of the United States of America. And what Donald Trump promised was a different deal. Here's the deal. That workers, American workers, right, are going to be considered at the top of the heap, not the bottom of the heap with trade deals and illegal immigration. He's gotten our sovereignty back. He's back Senator Perdue and Cotton's RAISE Act to limit legal immigration so that kids coming through the STEM programs, right, and to get these high technology jobs. That's how Hispanic and the black working class are going to get these great middle class jobs. They can't compete against the entire world unfairly in their own country. It's not right. On the campaign trail, they mocked and ridiculed Trump every day on his economic plan. The Wall Street Journal, Financial Times of London laughed at him. We don't have a tax cut yet. We'll have a tax cut by next week. But look what economic nationalism has done. 3.3% growth already. The New York Fed says the fourth quarter is going to have 3.9% growth. It's the highest projection they've ever had with this modeling. We've got the lowest unemployment in 17 years, lowest black unemployment in 17 years. Hispanic unemployment is 4.7%. I don't think it's never ever been that low. 40,000 manufacturing jobs created in November. 2 million jobs overall. American jobs for American workers. He's recutting every trade deal. NAFTA, the deal with Korea, the deal with Japan. He's forcing China to the table. With our intellectual property, a 301 to protect our technology, a 232 to protect our steel, a 201 to protect our aluminum. And what do you see every day? You read the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. Every country in the world's complaining and bellyaching. You know why? There's finally somebody standing up for the United States of America. You all talk about hate speech. What about the economic hate crimes the establishment has foisted on the workers of the United States of America? And that's what Donald Trump has turned upside down. Economic nationalism has us at 3.9% growth. The tax cut's going to be an accelerant. We're going to see growth like you've never seen before. You got companies in Japan, in Germany, all over the world, all over Europe, in Korea, trying to invest in the United States of America. You know why? They know tariffs are coming. They know quotas are coming. Yes, Wall Street Journal, they know protectionism's coming. They know it's going to protect American workers' jobs. On our national security, you know, if you go back to January 20th to the inauguration, he had a phrase in there he wrote down at Mar-a-Lago. We will rejuvenate old alliances and create new ones. And we will unite the civilized world to eradicate radical Islamic terrorism from the face of the earth. When he wrote those words, I said, Mr. President-elect, Mr. Trump, I said, man, that's a pretty big check we're going to have to cash. He says, I know that. In 10 months, what did Iraq do yesterday? They said the war with ISIS was over in Iraq. You're right, brother. In 10 months, he destroyed the physical caliphate of ISIS. These people in 2014, under the previous commander-in-chief, they had 8 million people under slavery in Iraq and Syria. They were recruiting non-stop in Europe. They had oil wells and wheat fields they were taxing. They were a more robust nation state than Iraq and Syria at the time. And I don't want to hear that this was Obama's plan. This was not Obama's plan. General Mattis and President Trump said, we're going to physically destroy the caliphate of ISIS. He went over to Riyadh and called all, with the king of Saudi Arabia, called all, I think it was 44, 45 Muslim nations together, said, we're prepared to work as partners. We're prepared to stand up to Iran. We're prepared to watch that, stop that Persian expansion, right through Baghdad and Damascus, all the way to the sea to Hezbollah and Beirut. We're prepared to help you stop it in Yemen. But here's what you got to do. You got to stop financing radical Islamic terrorism in Europe and the United States. And those countries, the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis, took action, right? This is a part of the world they're always double dealing you. They took action, bold action. That's Donald J. Trump's leadership. And you ever hear that? You ever hear the Trump miracle? Do you ever hear him talk about that? You ever hear him talk about the economic miracle? You ever talk about this turnaround of economic nationalism before the tax cut? And that corporate tax cut, when the $3 trillion gets repatriated here, and the corporations get to be more competitive in their tax rates, more jobs, more plant. You expense plant equipment 100% on the day you put it in. More manufacturing jobs. But you don't hear that every morning on the opposition party. This is not a fair and balanced media. They don't even make any pretense. They know that. Lock her up. Senator Sessions, are you listening? This would be Senator Sessions' seat now, wouldn't it? Come on, Senator Sessions. We've got to work with us on this one. He's brought our sovereignty back. He's turned our economy around. He's dealing with this situation. It was left in North Korea where all the geniuses in Clinton and Bush and Obama, all these guys said they'd never get the nuclear weapon. Right? He's having to deal with that with China at the same time. In every part of the world, think about it. In Venezuela, he was left the Bay of Pigs in Venezuela, the Cuban Missile Crisis in North Korea, and Vietnam and Afghanistan. That was dumped on Donald Trump, all the geniuses out there. Right? They mock and ridicule him every day. And look how he's sorting it out with America First. America First doesn't mean isolationist. It means America engaged in the world on America's terms. In America's sovereignty. And you know what you find out when you do that? When it's in the vital national security interests of the United States, it's in the vital national security interests of local allies, right? Trump wants to get away from the protectorates. Everybody's a protectorate. Everybody's dependent upon the United States. It's your tax dollars that underwrite it. And more important, it's your sons and daughters that are over there. And those ships in the South China Sea, that army up there in Korea and Okinawa, in the Hindu Kush Mountains in Afghanistan, the 2,000 we have in Iraq, the 2,000 we got in Niger, well, it's Sub-Saharan Africa, the Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, and the Northwest Pacific. It's your sons and daughters. Our most precious resource. Squandered by the elites in this country. You know why? Their sons and daughters aren't over there. No way. No way. They want you to pay for it, and they want your kids to enforce it. Under Donald Trump, that deal's changed. And now let's talk about who really brought this on us. It was the Republican establishment, right? This should be an absolute blowout, except for what they did to Judge Moore, because they couldn't stand being beaten in the first round, right? First, they crushed a good man named Bo Brooks unfairly, because they thought that Judge Moore was going to be an easier target. Because they said, hey, only those crazy Christians down in Alabama vote for him. He'll never get more than 33%. They didn't understand something. The populist nationalists of Mo Brooks, the conservatives, all going to back Judge Moore. To Mitch McConnell and Senator Shelby, Condi Rice, and all that little Bobby Corker, all that establishment up there every day that doesn't have Trump's back. You know they don't have his back at all. What they want him for is that corporate tax cut. That's all they want him for. As soon as they get that tax cut, you watch what happens. There's a special place in hell for Republicans who should know better. You know what they're doing. You know what they're doing when they're trying to shut up President Trump and Judge Moore? They're trying to shut you up. Why do you think the whole world's here? Why do you think they're down here in Dothan and Midland States? Why are they here? Why are they in Alabama? You know why? This about raw power. And they understand what the working men and women of the United States of America set their mind to something, things change. And they're petrified. I was in Scotland last week in the United Kingdom. I'm going to Japan. I just got back from Asia. I'm talking to all these highfalutin groups. And all they want to know is one thing. What are these deplorables about? And as President Trump loves to say, no games. Right? Games are over. We're not going to have people we give money to and support militarily finance radical Islam, terrorism. Those games are over. Right? We're not going to be in some situation in China and they're giving guys nuclear weapons and threatening us. Those games are over. Right? We're not going to have the deadbeats in the EU want us to protect them in NATO and not spend. And we've got to be supplicants to get 2% for the defense budgets. Under Trump, it's different. And that's what this whole thing's about. The Republican establishment, by the way, they would rather see Roy Moore beaten tomorrow. You know that. Because here's why. They would rather control in a minority the Republican Party than be in a majority and have you guys in control. And here's why it is. It was the basic thing when I stepped into the campaign with President Trump. He was down, I don't know, 16 points, double digits, there were saying. But the two basic numbers that mattered, I think we had 85 days ago. 2/3 of the American people thought we were on the wrong track. And 75% of the American people thought America's in decline. Now, for our elites of the uniparty, of the Republican and Democrats, the permanent political class that are up there in Washington, D.C., that's just fine. They will manage our decline against China and the rest of the world. You know why? they're going to make just as much money on the way down as they made on the way up. You know who's that not good with that? The deplorables. The working men and women in this country understand not just about future generations, the generations that got us here. Think of the back-breaking labor. Think of what went in to build this country. Are you prepared to give it up and let these elites take it and just give it away? That's the power that elected Donald Trump. That's the power that's going to elect Roy Moore tomorrow. That's the power they fear. And I'm telling you, properly harnessed, it's the greatest power on this earth. In this great country, it's not our natural resources, which is magnificent. A magnificent, stunning country if you've been throughout the world with great resources. It's not even our constitution, our legal system. It's magnificent. It's really divinely inspiring. It's not the capital and the wealth we built up. It's the American people. Every time, in the Revolution, in the Civil War, in World War II, in the Great Depression, right? Eventually we set things right. We're in the great fourth turning here. And I tell people, there's no magic wand. Trump can't wave a magic wand over you. Judge Moore can't do that. This is not going to get settled tomorrow. Hell, 10 months into it, he's got 3 investigations on the Hill by Republicans. He's got Mueller's investigation that, contrary to his lawyers, I think is just starting. Right? He's got 2 or 3 attorney generals, state attorney generals. He's got them. They're trying to pull the 25th Amendment. You hear Corker and Morning Joe, they're on that every day. That he's losing his mind, right? 25th Amendment, they're putting that out there. And today you got, Kristen Gillibrand and Bernie Sanders, they're all saying you got to step down because of Billy Bush weekend. I thought we litigated that. Didn't the American people already vote on that one? Alabama's the fire break and all that. Judge Moore wins tomorrow, it's a different deal. You understand that, right? You got Brother Doug Jones. Is he a Democrat, by the way? All his stuff, he never says he's a Democrat. Brother, you got to embrace Hillary Clinton and the Clintons. You've been in business with them for 25 years. How come you're not proud of it? Right? You were a delegate for Obama. How come you're not proud of that? By the way, if you believe in it, embrace it. Don't try to run to something different. That's all he's doing. And it's never the issues. They never want to debate the issues. Because they understand if they debate the issues, they lose. So they always try to run as conservative as they can get. These folks are too smart for that. The internet kind of put you legacy guys out of business. That's where you're laying off folks all the time. Hell, if Carlos Slim, the wealthiest guy in Mexico, didn't own a big hunk in the New York Times, they'd be out of business. They can't even figure out what to do with CFN, cable fake news. I'm here as a private citizen, Anderson, I know, but it must hurt you to have a guy from Breitbart say that. Tomorrow they call the question. And sons and daughters of Alabama are going to show the world where they stand for this nation. But this is a national election. It is the Trump miracle versus the nullification project. Now they couldn't beat Trump and they couldn't beat you on November 8th. Because divine providence was there with us. Now that is a big responsibility to have on one's shoulders. But you've got it on your shoulders. So tomorrow it's incumbent upon you to go get everybody you can. This comes down simply to who's going to work the hardest. And these folks, Doug Jones, those guys, they're hard workers. They're going to be out there. That's their constitutional right. They should do it. We want them to work as hard as possible. It'll make victory all that much sweeter. I think if we had to put a question of this importance to one state for the globe to watch, I couldn't be prouder as a Virginian to be down here and address the good folks of the state of Alabama. Judge Moore is a good man. Judge Moore is a righteous man. And Judge Moore, they tried to destroy Judge Moore like I told you they would. Remember I told you this? Months ago I told you there's politics of personal destruction. They tried to destroy Donald Trump. And they tried to destroy Roy Moore. You saw how they did. There's nothing too low for these people to do. They don't know about them. Right? When we go high, they don't even not go low. There's no bottom to how low they'll go. But Judge Roy Moore and his wife and his family came through this, and you should be proud of them. The reason you should be proud of it, you know they do this to send a signal to all these young people out here who are thinking of standing up, right? Who are thinking of throwing off the chains and say, hey, I want to help my people get total and complete freedom. I want to get away from all these deals that are throughout the world that have taken America's freedom and its wealth and transferred it overseas. And what they're going to do, just like with Trump and just like with Judge Moore, they're going to try to personally destroy them and their families as a lesson to all you young folks. That if you're going to stand up, you're going to get the same thing. They're coming for you. Amen, brother. That's exactly right. Donald Trump showed us in November 2016. Roy Moore showed us his entire campaign and his family, how they comported themselves. And Donald Trump, the Nullification Project, every day they're after him. Every day, not just the pressure of being commander-in-chief in a time of war, not just the pressure of trying to redo all these deals are so upside down, not just the pressure of the Oval Office and the Situation Room and the tank and everything he has to go through, but every day a different investigation, a different, a Gillibrand asking him to step down because of the Billy Bush stuff. These guys hounding him. Because it's trying to send you a signal, right? That you put up another guy, they're going to destroy him too. That's why the men and women in this room, we have to have the backs of these people. One of these establishment guys, I believe it was Willard Mitt Romney. One of my personal favorites. He made a comment before I talked last week in Fairhope at the barn there about, was it honor and integrity? Honor and integrity. Honor and integrity. About an individual that went to the United States Military Academy at West Point and served his country in Vietnam. Fought one of the toughest wars, and one of the toughest wars we ever fought, the Vietnam War, whose veterans were probably the least appreciated in the history of this country. It's a stain on this country. It's a stain on this country how we treated them. Right? We didn't have their back. And Mitt Romney, who avoided service, talks about the integrity and honor of Captain Roy Moore. What kind of country are we living in? Things in the media praises Mitt Romney and he does this and he does that. That doesn't wash. Does not wash. I was a naval officer. My kid brother was a Navy pilot. My daughter went to the United States Military Academy at West Point and served in Iraq, 101st Airborne. No. We're just an average blue-collar family. We didn't make a career of it. I was the first officer in the family. We had chief warrants and chief petty officers and sergeants, right? We're nothing special. We're just America's working class. Just like all of you. You have an obligation. You know you have an obligation. Your grandparents served. Your great-grandparents served. Right? You served. Or people in your family serves. Your sons and daughters serve. That's what keeps this whole thing going. It's you. It's the deplorables. It's the hobbits. It's the silent majority. You don't ask for anything. You're there to do your duty. But what you don't want is some elitists that come in here and question the honor and integrity of one of your own. When you fail to serve, brother, you got to keep your mouth shut. Do not insult these people. It's not about Roy Moore. It's about these folks. They don't ask for anything. They're not bragging about it. They just do their duty to their country. Maybe you might want to get a number 2 pencil out and write that down. Do your duty to your country. I'm so honored tonight to end this little talk with folks in Alabama, from a Virginia, not a Yankee. Although sometimes I know down in the deep south they think the Virginians are kind of Yankees. I'm very honored tonight. We have a very special guest. It was a gentleman who actually served in Vietnam with Captain Roy Moore. Honored to bring to the stage now Bill Staley, Captain Bill Staley, who will tell you about a man of honor and integrity, Judge Roy Moore.
You know him as Judge Moore. I knew him as Captain Moore. I served with him in Vietnam. The time was the early 1970s. And I'm here to tell you tonight about the man I knew then. And after seeing him again last night for the first time in 45 years, I'm here to tell you about the man I know now. So how did I first meet Roy? Well, no sooner had I put my boots on the ground at an Army base camp just west of Da Nang in what was then the Republic of Vietnam, and was assigned to command the 595th Military Police Company Sentry Dog. Then the battalion operations officer said, "Come on, I'll take you to your hooch, and I'll introduce you around. In fact, I got a captain I want you to meet." So I picked up my duffel bag, and I followed him, and I knew the drill. He was going to take me to the best officers in the battalion. That's what he wanted me to meet first. And sure enough, we went and knocked on the hooch, because it was after operations hours, and Roy came to his door, and I was introduced to Roy. And after that, I saw him nearly every day. I was immensely impressed with him. I learned later that he was a West Point graduate. It's not something he shoved in my face. I was a product of a very good ROTC program. Roy and I attended the same briefings. We lived in adjacent hooches. We ate together. We hung out together after operations hours. And I grew to admire him, his military bearing, his devotion. I saw him to be entirely honorable, disciplined, morally straight, and highly principled. He was a terrific officer, and we grew close. And I knew that if the occasion arose, he would lay down his life for me and I for him, without question and without hesitation. There came a time when, and none of it. It's all garbage as far as I'm concerned. So why am I here? How did I get here? So I hear all this slime develop about a month ago, not even a month ago. And I hear these things. And I see it develop. And it was wicked, as you know. Yeah. It was, in my view, and I don't mean to over-exaggerate this one bit, it was the political equivalent of a Viet Cong ambush. And I saw my Vietnam buddy standing in the kill zone. And I saw those Republicans in name only, those rhinos in Washington, drop their weapons, take their money off the table, I told my wife, I said, honey, this isn't right, this isn't fair, this is just flat out wrong. And she turned to me and she said, well, what are you going to do about it? She said, what can you do about it? So I put down the glass of scotch I was drinking at the time. I got up off the couch, I put on my big boy pants, I decided to put my reputation on the line, come down here for Roy Moore in Alabama, and here I am. So last night for the first time in 45 years, I saw my Vietnam buddy. I saw Captain Moore. I talked to him. We talked for a while. I looked into his eyes. Last time I had seen him, he was wearing jungle fatigues. He had a 45 on the pistol belt on his hip. He was cradling an M16. Last night he had his West Point jacket on. Wow. And I tell you, people of Alabama, he's the same guy. He's the same guy. He's honorable, he's disciplined, morally straight, highly principled, the same qualities we would hope to have in all our elected officials, but don't. So I read where Judge Moore recently, in one of his campaign appearances, talked about Thomas Paine and told us all, which is very true. It's true back in Thomas Paine's time, it's true now, that these are the times that try men's souls. And you may know that Thomas Paine marched with General George Washington back in 1776, in the darkest days of the American Revolution. We were in retreat. The British were advancing. They wanted to get to Philadelphia. They wanted to round up the signers of the Declaration of Independence and hang them. And Thomas Paine inspired people by writing his pamphlet, Common Sense, and used those words, these are the times that try men's souls. But he went on to write something else. He went on in that same pamphlet to talk about the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot. And he said that the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink from duty to our country. Well, I'm here to tell you that Roy Moore was no summer soldier. I mean, I quite literally saw him in the mud and the torrential downpour of the monsoon season. I saw him in the baking heat of the dry season. More than that, I saw him every day prepare for the danger and the uncertainty with a devotion to duty that was unparalleled. And more than that even, I knew that man to be someone who would lay down his life for this country if he had to. Captain Moore was no summer soldier. And we must not be sunshine patriots. We need to support the President's agenda to make America great again. We cannot let America slip from greatness. Roy Moore wants to make America great again. And I say to you people of Alabama, give Roy that chance. Give Roy that chance. Give Roy, let the nation hear it. Give Roy that, let the world hear it. Give Roy that chance. Join me now in welcoming to the stage Kayla Moore and her husband, the next United States Senator from the great state of Alabama, my Vietnam buddy, Captain Roy Moore.
across the state, across this nation, and the world. And we would not be here without you. It is an honor to serve, but it has been a horrific battle. The ugliest that I've ever seen. Our sails are torn, but our anchor holds. We are truly blessed. I can I know him better than anybody. That can be good and bad, but the fake news, they paint him a different picture. Their picture. So let me tell you who he really is. Fake news says he doesn't like women in leadership positions, yet he supports me as the president of the Foundation for Moral Law that he started 15 years ago today. So happy birthday, Foundation for Moral Law. Our chairman is also a woman and a prominent office holder in the bank, not to mention all of the women that work in our campaign. And there are many. Fake news would also have you think that my husband doesn't support the black community. Yeah. Yet my husband appointed the very first black marshal to the Alabama Supreme Court. Office as Chief Justice many years ago, he brought with him 3 people from Etowah County. 2 were black, and one of them is here tonight. We have many friends that are black, and we also fellowship with them in church and in our home. That's right. Fake news will tell you that we don't care for Jews. I tell you all this because I've seen it all, so I just want to set the record straight while they're here. One of our attorneys is a Jew. We have very close friends that are Jewish and rabbis, and we also fellowship with them. Fake news. They are the ones that are embarrassing. And they should be ashamed for getting involved in this election for our opponent. We have been invaded. Our town, our community, our church, our family, our records, our friends, to include every person that we have ever known. So I'm going to ask you, have they done this to our opponent? No. This is a federal election, and in my opinion, they should be held accountable. I want everybody to know this. I met my husband 33 years ago at a Bible study. And for the record, we have been married 32 years. In 2 days. I was attracted to my husband because of his love and devotion to God and country. He is a West Point graduate. Do you know how hard it is to get into West Point? He is a Vietnam veteran. In other words, he is a true officer and a gentleman. A loving and supportive husband, father, and grandfather. At West Point, I have to have notes. At West Point, the honor code is this: a cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal or tolerate those who do. This is who my husband is. And it's one of the many things that I have loved about him. It has been a very blessed marriage because God has been at the head. I love him, I trust him, and you should too. Let me introduce to you the next senator from the state of Alabama.
Set this up. Dr. Hobson, I know, has done a lot on that. Dr. Rich Hobson. And I've got my campaign chairman, Bill Armistead, here. Gomer from Texas, and Sheriff Clark, and Steve Bannon, and all the people that have spoken. I can't remember. And of course, this Texas. Now, I'll tell you, she's not only a better speaker and more encouraging than I am, she is better at business and running the foundation than I was. So I appreciate her so much, and she's been a good mother. And, she has closer contact with the kids than I do. They go to her for all their problems. But this is the last rally before the vote on Tuesday. We're Alabama. We're not going to stand by and let other people from out of state and money from California control this election. This election is the people of Alabama. We dare defend our rights, and we will defend our rights in the United States of America. I would gladly have declined an honor to which I find myself unequal. I have not the calmness or impartiality which the infinite importance of this occasion demands. I will not deny the charge of my enemies, that resentment for the accumulated injuries of our country and an ardor for our glory, rising to enthusiasm, may deprive me of that accuracy of judgment and expression which men of cooler passions might possess. So let me beseech you then, to hear me with caution, to examine without prejudice and to correct the mistakes into which I may be hurried by my zeal. Those were not my words. Those were the words of one of the first American patriots, the father of the American Revolution, Samuel Adams, as he stood before a crowd such as you to tell them what they had done with the Declaration of Independence. And the next thing he said is probably the most important thing in the history of our country, something that you probably never heard, the real purpose of the Declaration, why they did what they did, and why we need to follow their example. We have explored the temple of royalty and found that the idol that we have bowed down to has eyes that see not, ears that hear not our prayers, and a heart like the nether millstone, but we have this day restored the sovereign. To whom alone all men ought to be obedient, he reigns in heaven, and with a perpetuous eye beholds his subjects, assuming that freedom of thought, dignity of self-direction, which he bestowed upon them. From the rising to the setting sun, may his kingdom come. And I'll tell you something. In this country, we have explored the temples built by the Democrat and Republican Party in this country and found that they have idols that do not hear us and do not see us. We need to move forward with the vision that they had to recognize God, to recognize He's on His throne, and He is and cares for this country. You know, 3 years before I was born. 1944 was 3 years before I was born in 47. 4. America was at a crisis. We were at war with Germany and the Nazi armies of Adolf Hitler. And on June 6th, we were about to declare the Normandy invasion. And our president at the time was FDR. He was a Democrat. And he got on these crackling radio programs. That's all they had, radio. They didn't have microwaves. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have nice fancy cars. Most of them didn't have electricity. But one thing they did have was faith. And FDR said that they were about to invade. And he said, Almighty God, our sons, pride of this nation, have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Their road will be long and hard. Many will die, and some 408,000 died in that war. And then during the Normandy invasion, many more thousand died. And he said, but we have faith. Faith in each other, faith in our soldiers, faith in our men, our women. And without that faith, we will not prevail. Thy will be done, Almighty God. They did prevail in that. I was born 3 years later. And I wasn't old enough to remember it, but I remember what the second Democrat that took his place said. The American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men are created equal because they're created in the image of God, and from that faith we will not be moved. And during his administration, they had the National Day of Prayer. I went to the second grade when Dwight David Eisenhower took his place. And under Dwight David Eisenhower, they put under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we would never forget the strength of this nation, where it came from, and what it was about. In 1955, they put in God we trust, no longer money. And in 1956, they gave us the motto, in God we trust. Then we started to forget God. We started to forget where our strength was and where it came from. 1965, I went to West Point. On the banks of the Hudson River, I took my first oath to the United States Constitution. I went to Vietnam, and I thank Captain Staley, who I haven't seen for 45 years. He still looks good. Where is he?
Up here, sir.
Okay, he's up at top. He was a great Army officer, and we served a tour over there. And I'm going to tell you, we lost people in my class from West Point. My classmates on the gymnastics team, my roommate, we had people die. And I think that the country that they died for and the Constitution they died for, what has happened to our country today. We have forgotten that faith upon which we were founded. I'll tell you a little bit about this because I want you to know where I came from and what I've been about. My opposition has always been about my acknowledgement of God. The sovereignty of God. The Ten Commandments. I was removed from my job. When it came up about the definition of marriage, and I stood for marriage between a man and a woman. What they believe in government, what they believe that our government should be, to acknowledge the sovereignty of God and an understanding of the Constitution. That's the things that are needed in Washington, D.C. He walked funny. The funniest thing about Oscar was his middle initial was D. so his initials were ODD. And so you can imagine his nickname going up to school. It was Odd. They'd say, here comes Odd, there goes Odd. If you seen Odd today, and he got so angry about being called Odd. He said when he died, he didn't want his name on his tombstone. And so they honored it, and he eventually died, and they just put his date of birth and date he died. People would walk by his grave, and they'd look and they'd say, well, that's... Sometimes you can't get away from it. But I'm going to tell you, this place has been very odd. We've had 2 presidents and 1 candidate for president who didn't make it. Thank God. To the robocall in this state. We've had 2 vice presidents make appearances in this state. And we've had several senators to contest my election, 1 from this state. You know, we talk about draining the swamp. I don't know if you remember this, but it's difficult to drain the swamp when you're up to your neck in alligators. And that's where we are. We're up to our neck in alligators. We're up to the neck in people that don't want change in Washington, D.C. They want to keep it the same, keep their power, keep their prestige, and keep their position. And we've got to change that. But you've got to understand, they've got a lot of money. They had it in the Senate Leadership Fund. They challenged us during the primary with over $30 million, according to MSNBC. We've now exceeded that by another 10 to 15, if not more. There's been a lot of money in this race because everybody in this state, most of the people in this nation are watching this election. Why? Why is it? Because it's the first senatorial election after the election of President Donald Trump. We know they're not moving in Washington. We know that we want them to move in Washington, but they're putting a lot of money to keep what's there without change. As my wife said, I'm very distressed with the fake media. The false ads that have been put on by the fake media. Actually, 1 television station disproved the fact that I got over $1 million. They knew it. They still run the ad. We've seen Highway 31 in this general election. We don't know who they are. We know they spent a lot of money, and they know it wasn't for me. They've been taken off the air. We've had threats on social media for anyone that would back this campaign. We've been intimidated. Other people have been intimidated, and we're tired of it. The fake news began after I was an 11-point lead in the general election. Now I want you to understand this. The Washington Post put out this terrible, disgusting article saying I had done something, and I want you to understand something. They said these women, 2, had not come forward for nearly 40 years. But they waited to 30 days before this general election to come forward. Now they've allowed their pictures to be on a political advertisement, and they've gone on national television arguing their case after waiting 40 years, during which I served in 3 public offices in the state. I ran 5 state campaigns, 3 county campaigns in this same county, and never once was this mentioned. Never once was it identified, despite numerous investigations, despite the Judicial Inquiry Commission, the Court of the Judiciary coming to our county and investigating for anything that would be wrong. so that they could take me out of office. But 30 days, they come forward. Now, an article came out titled "Former Jeb Bush Staffer Planted Anti-Roy Moore Coverage in Washington Post," February 8th. Here's another article. Tim Miller is the man's name. A never-Trump ex-Jeb Bush staffer admits planning anti-Roy Moore story in the Washington Post. Now let me ask you this. Do you see this on television? Do you see anybody arguing that on news media? No. Investigating that? No. The reason being because they don't want the truth out. Get them, Roy. Just introduced yesterday. Where's Roy Moore? Because I took approximately 2.5 days to take my wife out of this mess and to let her relax with her son in West Point. I didn't run. I was back on Sunday and I was back on the radio. But my headlines are, "Where's Roy Moore?" Well, that's one reason I don't talk to the media for you, the president, because you won't print the truth. For example, Fox News came out today and said my opponent was 10 points ahead of me. On the same day, Emerson had me 9 points ahead of him. Somebody isn't telling the truth, and we're going to find out tomorrow. And actions are going to speak louder than words. All this mess is going to be over tomorrow with the vote. The verdict rests on the people of Alabama. One thing I don't like the media has said that a lot of people who are Republicans claim they're going to vote for me and just ignore what they believe. I'm going to tell you, if you don't believe in my character, don't vote for me. The difference between my opponent and me are vast. Abortion, he favors full term. I want to overturn Roe versus Wade because it was unconstitutional when they made it. He goes further than the United Liberal and United States Supreme Court with regard to right to life. Transgender rights. He believes in transgender rights. In the military, in their bathrooms, and then says they support children. Same-sex marriage. He thinks I'm a bigot. He thinks that because I favor traditional marriage ordained of God, that that's the wrong position. The people of Alabama don't believe that. In health care, he believes that we should increase Obamacare, which will increase our rates, diminish our services. I believe we should repeal Obamacare. I believe the federal government can't run the veterans' hospitals. How are they going to run our entire health care system? Immigration. He considers it wrong to make them carry cars. He considers it right to let them continue the immigration system that we had under Obama. I'm in favor of the RAISE Act, which Jeff Sessions has helped push, which would restrict immigration, and we can go to it. One of the biggest differences between us, I do not support federal involvement in the education systems of this state. Common Core should be eliminated. In our military, I love the military. I served in the military in Vietnam. I know what we need in the military. And if we do not have a strong defense, our peace is subject to the terrorists overseas. My philosophy has always been, since the academy, duty, honor, country. These three hallowed words reverently dictate what we can be, what we ought to be, and what we will be. They are your rallying points to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, and to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. I want to make America great again with President Trump. I want America great, but I want America good, and she can't be good until we go back to God. One nation under God. You know, many years ago I wrote a poem. It's called One Nation Under God. And it's about returning to that Creator God upon which our rights were founded. You know, in the days of Hosea, Jeremiah, the same thing happened to their countries. As the people got so arrogant because then when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like the corruptible man and birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Well, we're doing the same thing. I can't find my notes, I have to do it from memory. One nation under God was their cry, indeed their declaration. Upon the laws of nature and of nature's God, they built a mighty nation. But unlike mankind before them, who had walked this earth and saw it, these men would never question the sovereignty of God. That all men were created was a truth self-evident. And to secure the rights that God gave us was the role of government. And should any form of government become destructive of this sin, it was their right, indeed their duty, a new one to begin. So with the firm reliance on divine providence for protection, they pledged their sacred honor and sought His wise direction. They even lifted up an appeal to God for all the world to see and vowed their independence, forever to be free. But I'm glad they're not here with us to see the mess we're in. How we've given up our righteousness for a life of indulgent sin. When abortion is no longer called murder, and when sodomy is deemed right and good is now called evil. Darkness is now called light. And no longer does man see a need for God when He's in full control, for the only truth, self-evident, is in the latest poll. But with man as his own master, we fail to count the cost. Our precious freedoms vanish, and our liberties are lost. Our children are told they can't pray in school, and when they teach them evolution, why can't they see the fear of God as the only true solution? Our schools have become a battleground while all across the land, Christians just shrug their shoulders, afraid to take a stand. From the grave you can hear their voices cry. The victory's already been won. Just glorify the Father as did His only Son. And when our work on earth is done, you travel where you've trod. You leave the land we left to you, one nation under God. You know, as I think about the many Americans, how many veterans we've got here? Just raise your hands. Look around. You know, there's been so many that have given their life to this country. They're gone. Our country's changing. What we say here, in the words of Lincoln, the world may little note nor long remember what we say, but we should never forget what they did. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought there at Gettysburg stood for. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take an increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. May God bless you and forsake our land in the United States.
The poll's open. 10 hours and 35 minutes. Y'all go get it tomorrow. God bless you.